Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Bad Poppy, and let's queer up drag culture. How house motherhood drag culture has formed into key LGBTQ frontline protests and resistance. As RuPaul sang, "Call Me Mother," drag motherhood has been brought into the mainstream due to being featured in popular shows like RuPaul's Drag Race and Pose. Despite the polished glamour of drag families as seen on Drag Race, house mothers have their roots in a much more real place. Drag houses were founded as a way for marginalized people to help support each other with survival. In the ball culture of the 70s and 80s, many members of houses did not have resources, families, or even housing stability. The mothers and fathers of these houses would become a second family for their children, not only showing them how to perform, but also helping them stay off the streets, get jobs, and survive after many of them were outcast from their biological families. This dates back to the origins of ballroom culture during the prohibition era, when being homosexual or dressing differently than expected for your gender were illegal. These houses existed as outcasts from society and the law, and naturally, they wanted to be able to express themselves and exist publicly. House mothers and fathers led their children in protests and activism, helping to build the foundations of acceptance that we still fight for today. And might I give a shout out to the Black and Latina trans women who basically made this movement, because they were the ones who pioneered ballroom culture and house culture. So thank you so much. I wouldn't be here today as Bad Poppy without them. I would not be here as a drag king performing without this history, and that's why I honor them every time I do a show by doing protests every time I do a show. So I've protested Ron DeSantis, dumb law about like anti-drag establishments and stuff like that. I've protested Donald Trump. I protested Israel's unfortunate behavior with Palestine, and soon I will be protesting about ICE. So stay tuned for my next performance. But yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be here without them today. And drag has always and evermore will be a protest for now, before, now, and forever.
I hope you're right, but I'm glad that we started with RuPaul, because I don't see his work as protest. I see it as profit.
No. That's mainstream. That's mainstream.
Well, more than like it was with RuPaul. Like, I don't see RuPaul doing a lot of activism on at least dealing with the attacks on drag. I'm like, that you're going to get an industry. Well, that's an attack on your industry. Yeah. Like, CVS defends their industry. Where's RuPaul defending his industry?
Oh yeah,
and that's been a big question.
That's mainstream.
You got to look at two different things. RuPaul has raised awareness so that we can have the conversation in mainstream homes, where people had seen what drag was, were suddenly exposed to it and given an opportunity to be entertained. And it's not, you're right, it's not as much of a political statement, and maybe it needs to be a little bit more, but I think if it had been stronger in its outcry, it may not have gotten the viewership that it has done around the world.
I don't mean on RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean out in the world. I don't see RuPaul doing any activism. I don't mean it shows whatever his show should be.
Right.
But like, I see a lot of drag queens that like, they do their show, they make their money on their shows, but then they still give back to the community as doing the activism.
But I've never seen RuPaul do it like her own show. Like I personally have not gone to one of RuPaul's shows where it's not being controlled by the media of what they can and can't say on air. So I don't know, I can't speak to whether she actually in her act, if you will, takes a stance. Like I know you do, and a lot of folks do, oh God, what's her name? Black comedian. She's not
drag. More than one.
No, I know.
Wanda Sykes?
No. Wanda Sykes. Yes. I mean, she's not doing, but she's very political in her, and she's a lesbian. So, and a person of color. So, different people have different ways of doing that, and some of them are not intended to be political activists. And she does, you're right, she has a big voice and a lot of money. So we don't know what she's doing. Maybe at the time afterwards, and she's passed, we'll learn like B. Arthur was a youth supporter of trans youth, that were, or youth that were LGBT that were thrown out of their homes. So, you know, I don't want to judge or prejudge her without her being able to defend herself.
I do have to say that like drag culture now, as you said, is definitely like very mainstream and is driven by like capitalist interests. So the reason why, for example, me as a drag king, it doesn't get popular is because, you know, people don't sexualize me because I'm not a woman, right? And that's why like drag queens are usually at the forefront and not usually drag kings, because they're not, you know, like femininity is like sexualized, like, and that's what sells, right? That's, you know, the epitome of like capitalism for the male gaze. And so you have performers like me, you have performers like drag things that don't even like really fit. And sometimes I am a drag thing that don't fit the binary of like, you know, drag queen or drag king, and they also get like the back burner of, you know, drag. So you can really see like in mainstream, and I'm not talking about underground drag because that's a little bit different, but mainstream drag, you can see those problems like very clearly, especially with RuPaul's Drag Race. And I haven't watched it a lot, I'm not gonna lie, maybe I should because I'm a drag artist, but the reason why is because like a lot of times I do see like some prejudice, like especially with like people of color, like trans folks, etc., because they perpetuate those stereotypes and those, you know, harmful perceptions about us that sometimes make me feel like, dang, do I even belong in drag? But I do, because that's literally like where it originated from. It originated from people like me.
And it's got to be harder as a drag king, because the drag queen has the makeup behind it. Like, you can cover up your whole face, you can wear a wig, you can present better than what do you do as a drag king, and you know better than me.
We can do a lot.
I'm about to say, the drag kings do really.
Yeah, this is just basic. This is just me like doing an anchor, like, you know, chilling, having a good time.
No, I know that, but you even mentioned like if you're in that earlier stages as a drag queen, you can cover it up a little bit better with makeup and stuff, regardless. You know, as a drag king, you know, you're going to present with less makeup traditionally. You know what I mean? And so I can see how that is harder as a drag king as opposed to a drag queen, like presenting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know.
Try watching Dragula, because when they have drag kings,
it's so
those
true.
guys go crazy.
And you're right.
Cool.
I mean, I have.
There's actually going to be a new show. I really wanted to audition for it, but I just didn't have time. But maybe next year. It's called Kings of Drag. That's going to be specifically for drag kings. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's very cool. Yeah.
That's very, very cool, really. And now that's the big LGBTQ story for today. There's no other platform like this in the entire world. Subscribe and share Queer News Tonight.